Shawn.
Michael.
Bounces off me and sticks to you. Wait, no, I messed that up. First say something mean to me, really cruel, something that just guts me. You're totally gonna be glue.
So it's come to this. We have finally arrived at the end of your pathetic attempt to prove that humans are more than just mobile turd factories. And you are going to fail. Again. Because that is what you do. You're a choker, Michael. And you're about to choke for the last time. Except for the eternity you're going to spend in the bad place being choked by me, who will be doing the choking.
Well, you're glue.
And the Academy Award for coolest, sweetest, cutest, most informative, important person in the entire podcasting sphere goes to My Eyes See Zachary Pruitt.
Hey, hold on, I'm gonna let you finish, Zach, but Gooby had one of the best podcasting runs of all time.
I don't know, that was my Emma Stone moment where no one's mad that I won, but it's not the fun choice. Mm-hmm. Right?
You know what, Zach? I thought you had a pretty good timbre on the Academy Award for.
Thank you.
That was nice.
Thank you. I have had on multiple occasions, because every time I meet somebody, I'm like, well, you know, I have a podcast. Sometimes people have told me that I have a good voice for it.
Me too.
It's about the nicest compliment you can give to honestly, you know, nobody likes it when someone says, "Hey, I have a podcast." The answer is okay.
Yeah.
But the nicest thing you could say to somebody if someone says that is not like a question that allows follow-up information about the podcast, but just a simple, "you have a good voice for it," will make them say thank you very much and the conversation stops.
And it stops right there. That's how you do it.
A little tip. Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to Into the Time Knife, a Good Place rewatch. I'm Zach, and I'm a rootin', tootin', rackin', frackin' varmint.
Damn it, I had a one that was fun that I was going to say, and I sometimes write them down so I don't forget them. I'm Steven, and can someone grab his legs? My hands are full with the butt.
What a shrug of an introduction. You let us behind the curtain too much, I think. You could have just said the second half of that, right?
You edit the podcast, man. You can do whatever you want.
I do. That's true. I can do whatever I want, and I do edit. I'd say like 30% of the Steven out of the podcast. I just find a more natural flow when there's only one person talking for the last hour of the podcast. Yeah. That's just what makes the most sense to me.
Well, because then it's like Chinese water torture where like there's a random drop of water on your forehead and an indiscriminate amount of time in between. I agree.
I do like to compare our podcast to active military torture. I think that's really fair.
Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. We're going to torture you for the next hour and a half or so. I'm really glad you joined us, and we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to catch up some, and then we're going to get into one of the first episodes of the last half of the final season of The Good Place. We're really getting to the end here. But before we can do any of that, we've got to shout out some of our favorite people in the world. Here. And the Academy Award for $10 and up Patreon supporters at patreon.com/Can't Disappoint Podcast. Go to Mary Baker Budisa, Danny M. Lugo, Justin Fortier, Lil S. Haker, and Autumn Marsh. None of them get acceptance speeches. We're playing them off preemptively. That's enough. Take your trophy, get off the stage. And if you like what we do here and you want to support us further, patreon.com/Can't Disappoint Podcast is the best place to do that. Starting at just $5 a month, you can get all of the Patreon exclusive content that we've created over the last almost 4 years of podcasting, including 130-ish episodes of the live You Can't Dis a Pre-show that we do to catch up before we start recording every week. All the episodes of The Basement are that 70 Show Rewatch podcast that we've been doing for about a year, which is kind of crazy that we're about to a year of The Basement, and all 40 uncensored episodes of Brokeback Bebop. And speaking of Brokeback Bebop, all 40 episodes are officially streaming for free wherever you get your podcast, so check that out. Steven, how are you this fine day?
You know what, Zach? I'm doing pretty well. I'm a little tired. We had a big event on Friday.
I had a big event yesterday too. Friday. It's Monday.
I know. I'm still tired.
How long is your refractory period?
Well, but here's the thing is I had the big event on Friday and then worked on Saturday.
Sure.
And then yesterday I was all abuzz because I knew that the person most special to me was going to be all abuzz, and that put me in a tizzy.
My phone app activated vibrator that stays in Steven's asshole at all times just went off every time another Oscar was about to be handed out on Sunday night. Yeah. Well, the thing I wanted to mention to you right off the top is that I have a question for you. You've said today on record, off pod, that you've kind of got like a scratchy throat. You're kind of not feeling 100, not like sick, but because you've put your body through a lot in the last couple days. And you said in a text to me, I'm heating up a breakfast corn dog. I'm going to see if that helps. And then we'll get to recording. What are you knowing about, first of all, what is a breakfast corn dog? And secondly, what are the medical properties of the breakfast corn dog, please?
So a breakfast corn dog, they're these wonderful things. It's essentially like a breakfast sausage wrapped in a pancake.
Please watch the video podcast. You need this visual that Steven is doing here.
You put that on a stick. And I buy them frozen. I'm sure you can make your own at home. Yeah,
right.
You gotta jam your own stick.
Oh, you totally could get you a sausage link, and then just dip it in the batter.
Yeah. Well, that would work too. That'd be great.
Dip it in the batter. Just really dip it in that batter.
From the top or bottom, either one works. You just crunch away. They make ones with blueberry pancakes. I got the regular variety. And, I think that a warm glizzy, like just no chewing.
Just sliding the entire thing.
Slide the whole thing down to soothe your throat.
And what's the report of the second? How's that glizzy treating you in your throat?
I had
Stephen
3 of
Baker,
them.
podcasting throat goat of the year, 2023.
Helped a little, I think, actually.
Yeah.
The warmth.
Okay. Well,
warmth did wonders, But about the event, it was really good. We raised over $320,000 for the fight against breast cancer. I'm going to
really
put it
incredible.
all on cancer to win.
I'm not the type of person to encourage law breaking.
Yeah.
I just, sure, $300,000 towards breast cancer is amazing. I feel like we've come pretty far in the research for breast cancer. I feel like we've got a pretty good idea of what to do when someone gets it. You can just cut those things right off, is my understanding. I feel like you could have shaved a little bit off the top of that number, and suddenly we have 600 patrons that all have really weird random generator Gmail accounts as their email address. Would you steal from charity to support what we do here? Nobody's listening. This is between you and me.
Depends on the charity. Like if it's PETA, absolutely.
PETA?
I'd take every cent.
Steven
PETA.
hates
PETA's
animals.
bad. Well, I hate PETA. PETA's bad. PETA has kill shelters.
Yeah, sure.
Also, it smells a little bit like fire, so I'm just gonna look around and make sure nothing.
Make sure your home isn't on fire. You do have a closed door. Do you want to go feel that doorknob? See if it feels warm.
Ooh, flames are roaring out there.
I was gonna say if it doesn't, if the place is on fire, you'll have a little bit of time to talk before you really need to worry about it. But that seems rough. No, you're good. Okay, we're good. Is there anything else you want to mention before I'm not going to ramble too much about the Oscars, but I will
have
for a
one
moment.
more thing.
Please.
Maybe it was off pod. Zach and I kind of offhandedly mentioned to Zach, I kind of feel the need that I want to listen to some Fleetwood Mac.
Need for speed.
The Silver
Much
Springs
like the band
concert
Fleetwood
videos
Mac,
popped
you
in
had
my
the need
algorithm
for
enough
speed.
times. And so I listened to the 5 Fleetwood Mac albums, at least to my knowledge. I'm sure someone at home may say, well, actually, they all reunited for the live album in 2003. Yes, I know. All 5 non-live Fleetwood Mac albums that had both Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham on them. The first one, Fleetwood Mac, I gave an 8.6. Pretty solid.
This is what we're doing here.
Real quick, just a quick rundown,
talk about
Zach.
Okay, that's fine.
Hey.
That means that I get to rank the best pictures again. That's what this means.
Sure.
I hope you know.
If
I was
Facebook
just gonna
and
say,
the pre-show were not enough, please,
I was just gonna
Zach.
say the Oscars happened and they were fun, and here's like my favorite moment. But now I will again be ranking the best pictures. So just keep that in mind as you tell us how good
Rumors,
Tusk
which is probably
is.
their most famous. I gave that one a 9.4. I thought it was pretty damn good, top to
Can I
bottom.
give you a note? I would like this format
Yeah.
better if we did some sort of ranking. Could we do like worst to best?
I'm going in chronological order. Fine.
Damn. No,
worst-
it's you. You
Nope.
can do what you want.
No, I'm restarting for Zach.
Thank you.
It truly does smell like paper is burning. I'm getting a little concerned. Oh well, it's probably fine. I'll go out.
I mean,
check
if
when
you
I
need
finish
to
this.
make sure that your home isn't on fire, isn't
Yeah.
it terrifying to live in an apartment complex because it could be that someone else's home is on fire and you're stuck in a death trap?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So
where
only
did-
small burning paper.
So number
so
5.
the one that I rated the lowest was Tusk. Now I think Tusk has higher highs
That's considered
than
a pretty
the
classic
fourth
album, right?
and third ranked album. But I'm going to be honest. This album, more than any of the others, feels like there was a huge rift in a lot of the band, which there was for a lot of this time period. And so it feels half like a Lindsey Buckingham album and half like a Stevie Nicks album. And I like the Stevie Nicks parts of that much more on this album, which I'd say is not necessarily the case on all of them. But I think Stevie Nicks was at maybe her best individually on Tusk, and Lindsey Buckingham, some of his stuff was not great. I think he's very creative and really talented, but this was my least favorite listen of all of them. I think the fact that it's a double album and it's 20 songs, and I don't know, the other it just was less tight and clean than I think. I'm always in favor of give me 8 great
You like it
songs
tight and
instead
clean.
of 12 decent and 8 great. You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
give me the best. Next I have Mirage, which was another fun album. Some cool songs on there. That one, it almost seems like they collaborated a lot more on it. But I think the highs are higher on Tusk for sure. But in terms of consistency, enjoyed Mirage. Next I have Tango in the Night, which does kind of feel a little bit darker, a little bit heavier at times on that album. But you can kind of see as the members were starting to kind of go their own way, but that the sounds were divulging again, but made some pretty
Very
cool
nice.
stuff. Number
Nicely
2, I
done.
have Fleetwood Mac, self-titled. The first one with Nicks and Buckingham on it. Some really classic songs, some really fun stuff, and I think they were figuring out how good they could be. And then the top-ranked one for me is Rumors. That on first listen, I almost
Naturally.
considered giving it a 10. I thought it was pretty near perfect. But it's really cool stuff, especially if you listen on the deluxe version because it has Silver Springs, which is top 3 Fleetwood Mac songs for me.
One of my
Really,
favorite
really good.
towns in Nebraska. Silver Springs is
somewhere near DC.
in Nebraska.
Yeah. There's an Arthur Murray in Silver Springs. I have a good friend that works there.
Are you going to go back and listen to the earlier albums now that you've done the bulk? I feel like you might as well since you listened to them all. I feel like there's good stuff on the older albums.
I'm sure there is, but nothing I'm particularly interested in. My next listen through is probably actually going to be
normie.
Black Sabbath.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't take too much time
Zach.
because that was good insight into those albums that came out 50 years ago. You did
Hey,
a good job there.
someone
got
got to
words
talk
to
about
say.
them.
The Oscars happened. You know this. Oppenheimer Moppenheimered the floor with the awards, winning 8. It's very, I don't know. Everyone saw it coming, and it was one of those nights. It was like, yep, okay, Oppenheimer wins everything. But that's okay, because it's a good movie. And finally, Christopher Nolan gets multiple Oscars, which is good for him.
Good for him.
There were a couple of surprises, like Emma Stone winning over Lily Gladstone. You could see that Emma Stone was actually pretty surprised and a little bit unsure when they announced it, but then she gave a really nice speech, and she shouted out Lily Gladstone in a really nice way. She, shouted out everybody, and then was like, and Lily, going on this journey of the awards season next to you has been great, and I hope we get to continue doing this and stuff like that. That was really nice. That was the big surprise. Boy and the Heron winning over Spider-Verse was another, nobody's surprised to see an Emma Stone or a Miyazaki win an Oscar, but over the competition that seemed to have the best chance, it was a little surprising.
And as much of as a Miyazaki fan as I am, I would really like to see Spider-Verse get it because I think it was arguably the most impressive animated film of all time. But
It was an exciting Oscar moment to see the small visual effects team of Godzilla -1 with their smallest budget, probably the smallest budget of any of the nominated visual effects films, for it to win and them to get to have their moment on stage and to bring their Godzilla figures on stage was all very exciting. And I
That's
watched
super
all
cool.
10 of the Best Picture nominees, and I'm just going to list them off because I'd love if you are listening and have watched a lot of these movies. I'm still down for discourse. Just because the Oscars are over doesn't mean I don't still have the capacity to be very annoying and talk for a very long time about it. My least favorite, for no good reason, but just because the other 9 were better, is going to be American Fiction. Number 9 was Poor Things, which might be kind of a hot take. Number 8 is Maestro. A lot of people hating on that movie, but I enjoyed it. Number 7, The Zone of Interest. One of my favorite uses of sound in any film. It won Best Sound over Oppenheimer, which was a good moment. Number 6, Past Lives. Steven, I think you would really enjoy Past Lives.
I want to check that one out.
Totally make you cry.
Ooh, I
number
love that.
5 is Barbie. I kind of rewatched it in the background yesterday. That movie still holds up. Very fun, very funny.
Barbie's great.
Really easy to watch. You could put it on anytime. I'm going to have a good time. Number 4 is Oppenheimer. I wasn't mad to see it win everything, but I wasn't exactly like a stan. Because I did prefer number 3, Killers of the Flower Moon, which went 0 for 10 last night.
That's tough.
And another stat I just learned, Martin Scorsese has put out a lot of movies since, but hasn't won an Oscar since Hugo in 2012.
Really?
And so he's
You like Hugo?
like, I haven't seen it. He's like 0 for 26 nominations, the great Martin Scorsese,
God
including
damn.
movies like The Irishman
Yeah.
and Wolf of Wall Street, which were both very popular
Which
and
Wolf
did not
of
win
Wall
any
Street
Oscars.
not winning any Oscars was very surprising to me. Jonah Hill didn't win, did he?
No, it won nothing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But that's my number
Jonah
3.
Hill
I
won
thought
for
Killers of the
Moneyball.
Flower Moon was really great. I do have some feelings of like, Martin Scorsese is great, but I don't know that this 80-something-year-old white man needed to tell the Osage story. I feel very similarly to like back in the day, Steven Spielberg directing a movie like The Color Purple. Sure, they did a great job. Sure, the movie is fantastic, but that doesn't mean there can't be some questions about like, could somebody else have told this story better? That being said, I really loved it. It's my number 3. Number 2 is Anatomy of a Fall, probably the best written movie of the year. And then number 1, my only 5-star film of the Best Picture nominees is The Holdovers still. It's kind of a normie opinion, but I don't care. That movie made me feel good more than any other movie this year. So it's The Holdovers, and that's my Oscar wrap-up. Thanks for putting up with me, Steven, and the audience at large. Why don't we give the people what they're here for and talk about The Good Place? What do you say?
Let's do it.
Okay, today we're here to talk about Season 4, Episode 8 of The Good Place. It's Chapter 47, The Funeral to End All Funerals.
Bum, ba, bum, 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 it's a funeral time. I'm going to sing that song at your funeral, Zach.
I'd love that. You should do Jason Mendoza's dubstep foam cannon song. I'd love that.
I will. And I'm not going to let people know beforehand because I'm sure that the normies will
Subtle
try and
drop
stop me.
that you're assuming I'm going to die before you.
Yes.
I mean, I
think-
probably will.
I think at this point it's down to race.
I don't know. I feel like we've
We've got some things
both,
cooking.
We've
in
both
the
got
black
some
community.
columns in each of our... Like,
Yeah.
you're much more active and physically fit, but I also feel like
Which
you
leads to
eat
death.
a lot more junk that's clogging your arteries and gonna hurt your heart. Not that I don't, but I just feel like in grand quantity.
Yeah.
I
Absolutely.
feel like it could go either way.
I've done
I feel
a
like
lot of
one of us is
irreparable
going in
damage
our
to my
50s for sure.
insides.
One of us is going to live to like 90 and the other one's going to die 47-ish.
I think it's all down to which one of us smoked Lucky Strikes longer, because that might have been me.
It was.
Yeah.
Smoke Lucky Strikes. For a
There's no
long life.
filter.
Men in 1923 living to the ripe old age of 46 thanks to Lucky Strikes. This episode of The Good Place, The Funeral to End All Funerals, was directed by Kristen Bell.
Wow. I didn't know that. That's really cool.
This is her only directing credit ever. And
Wow.
she does a really good job. I even found myself before going and looking at her having directed this episode, that this episode has some filmmaking flourishes in the funeral scenes that are a little bit out of the ordinary for the show and a little bit showier in a more realism filming way. I think Kristen Bell did a really good job.
I agree. That's awesome.
This episode was written by the writing team of Josh Siegel and Dylan Morgan. This is their final writing credit on the show after previously writing the scripts for What We Owe to Each Other in Season 1, The Trolley Problem in Season 2, and Janet's in Season 3. So some pretty great episodes. Outside of The Good Place, since we're saying goodbye to Josh Siegel and Dylan Morgan, it seems like they've always worked as a team. They wrote the script for an old Jamie Kennedy movie called Kickin' It Old School. Do you know this movie?
That sounds very familiar.
Josh Siegel and Dylan Morgan wrote it. Together, they wrote 7 episodes of Monk,
Nice. Love Monk.
7 episodes of 30 Rock,
We like 30 Rock in this
Two
house.
episodes of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt.
She's alive, damn it.
And more recently, two shows that I want to mention. One episode of Great News, which was a short-lived show created by Tina Fey that was actually really good. And two episodes of the Saved by the Bell reboot.
Okay.
Which was on Peacock for a couple years, I believe. And this episode, The Funeral, to end all funerals, originally aired on November 14th, 2019.
Wow.
We're going to go back to 2019, November 14th. We're kind of not quite like Christmas movie season, so not the biggest blockbusters in the world. The number one movie this week, I had never heard of. And in 2019, I was definitely thinking about what was coming out actively. And this film was number one. And I'm going to tell you like the entire huge all-star A-lister cast. And you're going to have no idea what movie this is.
Oh my God.
It stars, I don't know who this guy is, but the lead is played by Ed Skrein. I don't know Ed. Do you know Ed?
Not from that.
But the huge cast includes Patrick Wilson,
Okay.
Luke Evans, Aaron Eckhart, Nick Jonas. It also features
God.
Darren Criss and Mandy
the fuck?
Moore and Dennis Quaid and Woody Harrelson.
Is this animated?
No.
What the fuck?
Do you have any guess?
No.
I'm going to give you the tagline, and I'm going to see if, based on the tagline, you can guess the title of the film. I had never heard of this movie. The story of the Battle of Midway, told by the leaders and the sailors who fought it.
Is it called Midway?
It is
1946?
Midway.
Yeah.
Good job. Midway, 2019. That was the number one movie in November
Did Nick Jonas
2019.
play a
Midway.
Navyman?
I don't know.
Red dress.
So neither of us have heard of this movie. Do you think it's good?
No.
It's got a good cast, kind of.
It has a cast that have been in things.
That's true. Aaron Eckhart,
I
Dennis
like Aaron
Quaid, Woody
Eckhart.
Harrelson, Patrick Wilson's good. Darren Criss. What do you think the critics over at Rotten Tomatoes thought of Midway featuring Ed Skrein?
I don't even know where to guess. I'm just going to guess dead center 50 and see how close I am.
The critics on Rotten Tomatoes gave it a lower score than 50. Take one more stab and then I'll tell you.
Let's look at 38.
It's a little higher at 42%.
My gut was telling me 46.
Now,
Should've
the
gone with
audience, the people at home. The critics gave it 42. Do you think the audience at Rotten Tomatoes is higher or lower than that?
Lower. Let's
Okay.
go 36.
Steven, you're so far off. It is higher, and you're not going to believe how high the score is.
Is it like in the 70s?
You're not going to believe how high the score is. Take a stab, and then I'll tell you.
91.
It's 92%.
That's
for
ridiculous.
Midway. Maybe that's because only 5 people have ever heard of this
Yeah.
movie, but it was
And
number 1.
3 of them
at the
are the
box
Jonas
office.
Brothers.
That's why we're talking about it. It had
That's
over
wild.
10,000 audience ratings on Rotten Tomatoes. 92%. I
That's
refuse to
pretty
believe that
impressive.
Midway could be a good movie and that I should ever watch it. I'm not interested. Ed,
You know what we should do is at the end of every season, we
Watch
should look
all
at
of
whatever
the
the
movies?
highest rated,
Ah.
the highest and lowest rated Rotten Tomatoes ones and watch them.
interesting. I don't hate that. I don't think we're going to do it, but I
No,
think that's
but
a good
it'd be
idea.
fun. Yeah.
That would be fun. We could watch Abominable.
Abominable, I'd check it out.
Let's move over to Letterboxd. The Rotten Tomatoes critics sat at 42, the audience at 92. Where do you think the people at Letterboxd sit, translated to out of 100?
Got to be closer to the critics, so I'm going to say 56.
That is 100% correct. 56%.
Hey, I know the people.
You've been looking ahead.
The second you said Nick Jonas, I was there.
I fully trust you to keep this segment honest, because I know you're not looking up the air date of The Good Place and then looking up what the number 1 movie was that week. That's not going to happen. That's too many steps for busy boy Steven.
Far too many.
He's got so many breakfast glizzies.
What's
to suck
crazy
down.
is like when you said, "Oh, I know you're not like you're keeping it honest." My thought wasn't even to go that far. It was
Yeah.
to say when you said the name of the movie to instantly
look up
Google
how good
at
it
that
is?
moment. Yeah,
No, I trust you not to do that, I think.
yeah.
The number 1 album this week is an artist that I don't want to talk about, but Steven will have a lot to say.
Oh no, 2019.
Yes,
Does that mean
the number 1 album.
Yay. Which one is it? Is it the one? Is it a solo or is it a collab?
You just have to guess. And then I'll tell you.
2019, that was just Yay. That was the one, I'm Bipolar.
No.
What was that album called, though? Is it just called Yay?
Not what it is, though. I think it was called Yay.
Yeah.
That's not the one.
Oh, so this is Donda one.
No.
Oh. And it's not a collab album. It's just him.
I didn't say that, but no, it is just him.
2019?
Yep. Some fan of the deeply controversial figure you are.
What the fuck? What album am I forgetting
look it up.
exists?
Don't look it up.
What album am I forgetting exists?
The number one album this week was Jesus is King by Kanye
shit.
West.
If there's one to forget exists, it's that one.
Isn't there a song about Chick-fil-A?
Closed on Sunday. You're my Chick-fil-A.
Number one album, Jesus is King by Kanye
I
West.
like a song on this album. I like two songs on that album.
We're going to start at Pitchfork. Decimals are
One
in
of the
play,
ones that I like
and it's
isn't
out of
good, though.
10.
It just has clips on it. 2?
Out of
Critics
10
hated
from
this album.
Pitchfork? No, it is much higher.
What did Pitchfork give this? Like an 8?
7.2 out of 10
7.2
for
Wow.
Pitchfork.
That's very generous for what is
For a Christian album.
inarguably his worst album. Because you know what album was good,
No, it
though?
isn't.
What do you think's worse than this?
Everything that's come since it.
That's fair. Donda 1 wasn't worse than this.
Well, let's go back to your Fleetwood Mac thing. Quantity over quality.
Yeah, that's
right?
fair. That's very fair. It's crazy because Kanye released one of his best albums ever this same year.
I don't want to talk about him anymore. It's 7.2
One
out
with
of 10
Kid
on
Cudi.
Pitchfork. You can say what you want, but like thinking about him too much kind of gives me a stomachache these days. Pitchfork 7.2 out of 10. Let's move over to Rate Your Music, the letterboxd of music, also out of 10 with a decimal point. Where are we sitting?
Much lower. 5.
It's a little bit lower.
4.75?
Correct. 4.7.
Hey.
Yes,
should've just held
4.7
it
out of
there.
10 over on Rate Your Music.
That's
For
a
Jesus
more
is King
correct score.
by Kanye West. Yeah, I think so too. Like maybe even I would go up to like a 5 and a
Yeah.
half.
There's some
And I also want to make
different.
clear to the listening audience that when I said everything that has come after, I only listened to the one that came after. I haven't listened to any of the weird ones since then.
You haven't heard the newest one, Vultures Part 1?
No, and I think I'm
There's some
past the
pretty
point
aggressively
of
anti-Semitic stuff on
being interested in even trying.
there. Yeah. There's a really gross song on there where he, like, in a weird voice says something about praying for big titty bitches to fall from the sky. But he's talking about his, I think, wife currently. I don't know if they're married, fiance, whatever the person that looks like Kim Kardashian that he's walking around with.
It's a real, like when Rachel on Friends started dating Russ situation.
Yes,
Do you remember
that's
Russ?
exactly what it is. Remember Russ?
Let's move on. Let's move back into what the people are here for. Nobody wants to hear
Do you
us
think it
talk
was
about
hard for
Kanye
David
West.
Schwimmer creatively to play Russ, or do you think he just said, I'll just be Ross, but kind of gray?
I think he said, and when does the cash check, or when
Yeah.
does the check cash? Is that today? Is it tomorrow? Let's move on. We're talking about the funeral to end all funerals, this week's episode of The Good Place. And the first thing we've got to do is one of my favorite things we do here every week. It's time for Steven to stress out as we come together to learn, did Steven watch the episode this week?
Did Steven watch the episode this week? I was gonna try and be, that was quoting Close on Sunday, You're My Chick-fil-A from Yay. But I wanted to do something where I was some David Schwimmer character, but the only 3 I could think of were Melman from Madagascar, Robert Kardashian, that's a tie-in, on The People versus O.J. Simpson, which is probably his best performance, in my opinion.
I mean,
of
I
his
think
career.
David Schwimmer is an underrated actor. He's a good actor.
Yeah. Yeah, Melman really conveyed anxiety and Munchausen syndrome in a giraffe pretty well.
There's a good episode of 30 Rock with David Schwimmer.
Oh,
Where
I remember
it's
that off the top
like
of my head.
NBC is doing like a green week and he's their new
Nice.
mascot Greenzo.
That's really funny.
Well, you've got 20 seconds on the clock, friend. How
Yeah.
are you feeling about this one?
I'm gonna
feel
get
like
caught in the weeds.
Really? Because I feel like this one doesn't have to be as hard as some of these have to be.
Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna take it easy. I'm gonna roll.
Well, I mean, still try. Still show up to the
ball
table.
Up the wickets. You ever played cricket, Zach?
Come on. Who are we kidding here? Don't ask bullshit questions just to make conversation.
I don't really know how cricket works, but I'm gonna bowl the big old ball.
Wicket?
That's a
wicket?
Croquet thing. Wait, is there a wicket in cricket too?
20 seconds on the clock, Steven. Are you ready to give it your best try?
I think so.
Okay, on go. 3, 2, 1, go.
The experiment's over and the judge is ready to make her ruling and hear the cases and crunch the numbers. When they do that, they find that everyone got better except Brett, but he got much better at the end, but it wasn't enough to take him over the edge. Meanwhile, the humans have to stay behind, and they decide they have funerals for themselves, where they say a bunch of nice things to each other. They each get their own funeral, including Chidi. Very sweet, very cute. The judge then decides
Stop.
that Earth has to go.
No. Look, I think you did better than you've done. No. I think you did better than you've done in a while. You said one thing early that stuck with me. His name is Brent. You said Brett.
You just couldn't hear the N. It's African American vernacular.
It was the absence of N was loud and clear. That's unrelated. What I will say about that, I think you did a good job. What I really needed to get a good score, you did not get the judge said the Earth has to go. And what I would have loved was that they need to wake Chidi up so they can solve the problem. Yeah. That being said, I really wanted you to get the two halves of the episode, the funerals, and I wanted you to get... Also, you didn't really get, like, the Janet thing at the end would have been nice. You didn't get the end. You didn't even get to touch the end. But the 3/4 of the episode that you did get, even if you brush past some stuff, you gave me most of what I wanted. B+.
Thank you.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to go B or B+. I think I'll go B+.
Aggressive. B. Aggressive.
No.
B.
Now let's move on to the next thing that's going to be a lot of fun. Some trivia.
Let's do it. I've got a handful for you.
It's something like 8 questions for you.
Okay, I'll go first then, because I have more than that.
Greedy boy.
Who spoke first at Tahani's original funeral?
Moby.
Yeah, you're right.
What's the name of the neighborhood's lasagna restaurant?
I didn't see that in the background. Layers of Love.
Lasagna come out tomorrow.
That's terrible. That's...
I didn't write it.
Awful. That's funny. That's awful. What is the first stage of Jacksonville Grief?
Oh, graffitiing a Red Lobster about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where is Tahani's funeral held?
In the cabin of a Jetstream G650? 560? Something like that? Private jet? I don't know which one it was.
It is
Gulfstream?
G650. You got one word wrong, but not enough for me to not give it to you. Yes, Gulfstream G650 private jet. That was an excellent answer.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Been on an airplane before.
It's just a thing you know when you've been in the sky. When you've been a mile high, Zach, you'll get it. What magazine is Tahani on the cover of?
Damn. Is it said out loud or do we just see it?
You see it. It's right next to her face.
People?
We're looking for International Sophisticate.
Yeah, I didn't know. What are the improvement scores for the 4 humans?
Ooh. Simone went up 33?
No.
Or 23%?
Well, here's what's going to get you wrong, because originally they show a graphic, and then later Michael says specific traits that went up specific percents. Different.
Chidi's was like 4. Chidi's okay. Simone went up 18, I think. Chidi was 33. John was 44. Brent was -1.
You got the last 2 right. You're in the ballpark for Simone and Chidi. Simone was 12 and Chidi was 26.
26. That's a good question. Is it Zendaya or Zendaya?
Zendaya.
Yes, correct.
I guess. Not that I would know.
I had a thought in my head where I was like, how old was Zendaya when this episode came out? And I was like, oh, no, we were adults. I say we because Zendaya and I are linked in age.
Are you... This is just where I'm going off of what you just said. Are you telling me that was Zendaya old enough to be hot at that time, Math?
I've had a crush on Zendaya for a long time. Because
you were doing
I'm
if we were
her.
Old enough or too old, Math. Huh?
I was Zendaya 18 when they made this joke, Math?
Yikes.
Machine adult. Then
I
she
think it's my
was, so
turn?
no yikes.
No,
So it's
that's
fine.
not why the yikes. The yikes is that is the math. The yikes is the
Well, because
is
like if
the
they made that
question.
joke in season 1, it'd be a little icky.
Oh no, I don't think at all the joke. I didn't take the joke as Shawn thinking that Zendaya was attractive. I thought more the joke was that Shawn is embedded in pop culture and embarrassed about it and doesn't
Zendaya
want
wasn't
to.
making music in 2019, Zach.
Who said
Actually,
music? You're the one thinking about if she was 18 or not. Period.
Zendaya and I have had a long relationship,
Let
mostly
me ask you
one-sided.
my next question. I don't want to talk about this or Kanye anymore. What really matters in life?
I can't talk about Zendaya. I can't talk about Kanye West.
That's
Why
my
am I
list.
here? Those are my two interests.
What really matters in life to dirtbags Eleanor and Jason? 3 things.
Yeah,
Nothing?
I can't remember the joke.
Wrestling?
Semi.
Why is that the only part you remember? Semi-legal drugs and Jason Statham.
Jason Statham forever. Statham
Yeah.
for life.
Bad job. Bad.
Yeah. What number is Jason's funeral bear wearing?
Ooh. I don't know, so I'm going to guess 66.
Ooh, we're looking for 5, like Blake Bortles.
Oh, sure. That makes sense. What are Shawn's picks for active bad humans whose data they should look at? There's 3. Did Steven watch the episode this week?
Eva Hernandez.
No.
Skilly Willy.
You don't know shit, do you? Do you remember the big one that was like the joke that's like a young person?
PewDiePie.
Yes. Do you remember one of them was somebody that just died?
Yeah,
We're
it
looking
was.
for Henry Kissinger.
Henry Kissinger.
And do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Okay. And Elizabeth Holmes.
Elizabeth Holmes, that was the
What
one.
is this?
It's a gun.
Do you know who Henry Kissinger is?
It's the FBI guy, right?
No,
CIA
he
guy?
he was like on Richard Nixon's staff during Watergate. Bad guy.
Yeah, CIA. Bad guy.
Your turn.
Which friend doesn't belong in hell?
Phoebe.
Yeah.
Which tracks?
Yeah, that
Honestly,
tracks.
I would maybe make a slight argument against Joey.
I would make a slight argument against Joey, but think about how poorly Joey treated so many women.
But how often is he dishonest with them? He just beds a lot of them. All of the friends bed a lot of women.
Well,
he's no
there are
Barney
some that he
Stinson.
says he's going to call and doesn't call. And that's lying. That's negative points. I think Joey is the closest.
Yeah, I think
to
so
being
too.
good.
What are Shawn's picks for act? I already asked you that one. What does Eleanor's funeral banner say?
You are dead.
Close.
Dead as fuck. DAF. Dead AF.
Less close.
Oh,
That's her T-shirt later.
Yeah. I don't know.
Ya dead.
You dead. Damn. Close. What did Patricia teach Donna?
Algebra?
Ooh, did you even
Calculus.
watch the goddamn episode? Multiplication.
Oh, yikes! I think is what Michael
Yeah,
says about
you were thinking
that.
it was going to be a little more advanced.
What do Tahani's sweatpants say on the butt?
Oh, is it like swaggy AF or something like that?
No.
I don't
First
remember
word
what
does
the
start
word
with
is.
an S.
Yeah.
Skank Army.
Skank Army. Hot. They didn't show the sweatpants and thumbs down.
You were looking, weren't you?
I was ready for
After
it.
you finished deciding how old Zendaya was, you were trying to get a
Went right
glimpse
to
of
the
those sweatpants.
sweatpants.
Real creepy Steven
This
week.
is kind of a fuck you question because they do not say
Okay.
this out loud. And they only show it a couple times.
Okay.
Where were Eleanor's funeral shrimp from? Not the same place as Jason's funeral wings, I will say.
Yeah.
In case
I don't
you were
even
gonna
have a
think
guess.
it was Stupid Nick's wing
Yeah.
dump, because it wasn't. Coyote Joe's is what's on the labels.
I feel like that's a place that has been mentioned before, but I didn't catch
Yeah.
that. Very nice. I got one last question for you. What does the judge find in her purse?
All the things.
There's only 3.
The Thing to End All Wars.
Uh-huh.
Season 2 of Justified.
Uh-huh. And the first thing that she... A more normal purse thing.
Yeah. Lip gloss?
Yes,
Lots
good
of
job.
lip gloss. Hey.
I kind of helped you find it, but that was it.
Yeah.
That's all my questions. You have any more?
Okay, I have one more for you. I'm impressed we
Let's
haven't
hear
had
it.
any doubles. You had more than 8, I think, because I had more than 9.
The show just can't be about counting all the time.
What what was Jason thinking about during the ruling?
Some of us were thinking about skateboards.
Skateboarding, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Good job.
Nice. I'm
tribute
impressed.
round.
No doubles this week.
Let's get into this episode. Okay.
Let's do it. Let's dive
Yes, I'm
in.
impressed too about the doubles. We can move past the doubles. We don't need to be. We can't
No
talk about
doubles
numbers and
this
doubles
week.
all week. Let's talk about this episode, which I feel a couple ways about. I do think it's a good episode, and I think the ending is really good. But this is an episode that, on the human side, slows down a little bit, so we can have some sweet emotional moments. But I don't know if it's like beefy enough for the amount of screen time it gets. And then I feel like as big of a deal this ruling is, obviously this is a comedy show, but it's treated a little bit too silly until towards the end when things really start moving. I don't think it's a bad episode. I don't even think it's one of the worst episodes of the season. We're just in such a crucial part of the season and of the series that, kind of like how Michael with the magic act last week was kind of lackadaisical. Sometimes the people, and maybe that's the point, that the judge and the good place people are so like lackadaisical. But I don't know. I feel like this episode should be a little bit more intense than it is.
I can agree with that. I think I might be a little bit better on the episode than you seem to maybe be. I liked it quite a bit.
It. Yeah.
But I do see where you're coming from. I think the next, and maybe I'll feel differently when we get done with this, but just looking ahead a little bit, this episode and the next 2, I feel like could have been 2 episodes instead of 3. And I feel like we are going to start to feel that in this episode, and we're going to feel it more
next week.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, not next week. We're going to talk about the next option for our upcoming Rewatch podcast next
Michael
week.
J. Fox Show, the pod.
Do you know about the Michael J. Fox Show? It lasted
I know
one
it
season.
Exists.
Marie from Breaking Bad plays his wife.
Nice. She's my
least favorite character on Breaking Bad.
So far in season 1, yeah.
Yeah.
Don't care for Marie. I like Hank more than Marie in season 1. No, I don't. Hank says too many slurs. No.
I don't like Hank. I think this episode is good, but the way that last week's episode ended was so good that I wish they could have kept that momentum going from the beginning. And instead, it's kind of the ending. I didn't really remember most of this episode except for the ending. I remembered the judge and the clicker thingy when that started happening. I remembered the going through all the Janets to find it thingy. I didn't really remember the funerals or the first part of the judgment or the good place people coming back.
I didn't remember the funerals super well either.
Which was kind of nice. It made me feel like I was watching an episode for the first time in certain moments. Let's run through it, unless you've got any other thoughts before we do. Okay.
Let's dive in.
So Michael and the gang, it does take off pretty much right after last week. They rush into Mindy's place as the obelisk opens up. I do like, we talked about last week how we liked the obelisk just being in the background all season. I like the visual of it opening up. And then the accountant, I think his little moments are so nice because he has to be really impartial. So he's so neutral. He's almost like neutral Janet adjacent. The way that he gets out and he's like cracking his neck and he's like, oh, that's uncomfortable. Oh, hey guys, what's up? But of course they're also stressed out because they were watching as the time went to 0 as Brent paused mid-sentence, and now all of a sudden this guy's like, oh yeah, I've been crunching the numbers, no big deal, no stress. He comes out. But Michael asks if they won or lost. Tahani is asking if humanity's saved. And then Jason asks, oh, also, did you find my Nintendo? And he holds it up because it was in his hand. What do you think of the Nintendo Switch product placement in this episode of The Good Place?
A little hand in fist, but it's okay.
Would it have been a funnier joke if it was like a Game Boy or something? Because when you see the newest console, it feels like a commercial all of a sudden.
Yes.
Is that how you feel?
That is how I feel.
It's not even jarring that like Jason has or wants a Nintendo Switch in the afterlife. Just the image of a Nintendo Switch being held up felt very much a commercial.
It might have been less jarring if it had like Jaguar's wrap around it, but that's not official Nintendo gear. So
the accountant can't reveal the results until they get to the judge's chambers, which is where we'll be spending a decent amount of the episode. And Eleanor sweetly is very stressed out. At first she says, where are the 4 humans? But quickly gets right to specifically Chidi. And we learn through Janet. First, she says, Chidi's on the toilet. Let me explain. This is a joke that didn't...
Yeah,
It wasn't unfunny, but I don't know. The toilet joke was kind of whatever. He's on the toilet. Let me explain. They're all frozen, so I put them all in the bathroom, and I gave Chidi the best seat, which is the toilet. I don't know
why I should put them in the bathroom, but...
I know. Couldn't they just be anywhere?
Wherever they were. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Eleanor is telling Michael that he should wake up Chidi so she can be reunited with the man that she loves. There's this running good place saying of like, I forget how they've said it in the past, but here Eleanor says, snappy, snappy memory fixie. They've like used that
device before.
Like something,
thisy,
boobity
thisy.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a better way of saying it. Thisy, daddy, thisy. They've done that before. The accountant says, none of the humans, though, can be unfrozen until after we get the ruling from the judge. That's another thing. We've been waiting so long for Chidi to wake up, and it felt like he finally did last week. But I don't hate spending a week with Weekend at Bernie's Chidi, because it really
that's fun.
is building up to the moment that is coming soon, I'm assuming, in the next episode when Chidi does wake up.
Yeah.
So a portal opens up, and they begin to leave to go to the judge's chambers, but the accountant explains that the humans have to wait behind here because only the immortal being type figures can be in the judge's chamber as she gives her ruling, which seems fair, and it's a good reason for there to be a secondary plot.
Sure.
I like the funerals. In fact, there's a moment, like one moment, that on my first watch made me almost tear up just a little bit because it was awful sweet. Would you have liked a version of this episode that's just the chambers? It's almost like a To Kill a Mockingbird courtroom episode of Michael versus Shawn pleading their case to the judge. I would have liked a little more of that.
I don't know. I feel like we've gotten that already.
I suppose that's fair.
Pre-experiment. And when the bad place was
true.
cheating in I think we've just gotten enough of that I'm okay with them splitting it up. And I feel the same way about an episode that's just the funerals. If, like, let's say Michael's like, oh, well, I have an hour before I have to go deliberate with the judge, and then they had the funerals, like, all of them there, and, like, giving Michael one. I don't think I would have liked that as much either. I think that it could have been really sweet to give Michael one, because it's a human experience that he'll never get to have.
Yeah.
But I also think that I've seen The Fault in Our Stars, so I don't really need a whole long thing of that.
Funeral speech moment. Sure. That's a good point. I think I do agree with you. Eleanor's really upset that she doesn't get to go. She says, I worked my ass off running this neighborhood for a full year, and I'm not even allowed to hear how I did. Michael says, yes, and here's a bottle of tequila. Okay, tell me how it goes.
I get it.
Theme
sure.
Sequence bit. You a tequila man?
I do like tequila.
This isn't liquor, but I've become more of a beer guy over the last couple of years.
What have you been liking?
I'm starting to like Guinness quite a bit.
Guinness is in my top 2.
During the Oscars last night, I went through like 3 Guinnesses.
Nice.
It was a good
Next time you
time.
come to Chicago, I'll take you to an Irish pub and we'll get some Guinness.
Well, I started with the Guinness because we went to see Laura Jane Grace, and Against Me has a song called Pints of Guinness Make Me Strong.
Mm-hmm.
So while I was waiting, at one point I walked to a nearby bar and I ordered a sandwich and had a pint of Guinness. And well, actually, I guess Guinness was a beer that we used for the chili we made a couple weeks ago. And I took a sip of it because I had never tried it, and I expected it to be gross. I expected it to have this like awful bitter, like heavy syrupy thing going on. It's super drinkable, and I love the cans with the nitrogen ball inside of it and pouring it into a glass. Anyway, why did I start talking about Guinness? Tequila, I guess, because you're a tequila man. I like tequila. If I'm gonna do a straight shot of something, tequila would be an option.
My first choice, yeah.
After the theme, the 3 humans and Janet are walking the neighborhood. Tahani says that regardless of what the ruling's going to be, this moment feels kind of like a big goodbye to them. Because Eleanor brings up a good point that anything could happen. The judge might snap and they all fly off into different dimensions out of nowhere. This could be a goodbye moment. And Eleanor says, how's that? Did I cheer everybody up? Jason is bummed out. I like the segue into the funeral idea. He's bummed out that oh man, we're going to have to die again. I feel like I've died so many times. I've had like 15 funerals. And this gives Janet the opportunity to give them some details about their first original funeral and what it was like because she was there. I wouldn't have hated that.
Actually seeing the flashbacks?
Yeah, if that was their subplot.
Funny.
Because all of these big emotional, how much you mean to me moments will be coming up in the next 6 episodes.
Yeah.
I would have kind of liked if the subplot was Janet giving them all the information of their funeral, and as in the courtroom subplot, we're hearing some details about like Eleanor's mom and stepdaughter.
Yeah.
We're learning details about Pillboy. We could have seen them at each of their funerals.
Was it season 1 or season 2 where we got all the backstories of how everyone died and like saw the flashbacks?
I think that was. I mean, it happens early in the show, and then it happens again in season 2.
Like
when
I
they
would
go
have
back,
taken even
or season
that
3 when
kind
they
of
go back to
way
life.
where it like hard cuts, almost like a snap to them
That could have been fun.
back on Earth. That would have been kind of fun. I wouldn't have hated that at all.
Janet starts to tell them about the funerals and mentions that Moby spoke at Tahani's funeral. And right as she's about to say what Moby said, Tahani says, "No, thank you. I don't want to hear that." Have you ever heard a Moby song, or do you only know who Moby is because a lot of sitcoms reference him for some reason?
I have heard Moby. I couldn't tell you
haven't.
the one, because there's one
what he
song of
looks
his
like.
that was fairly popular.
Okay.
Like there was one that like you'd be like, oh, I know that song. But mostly I think of Moby because he's on the Far Worse album version of an A$AP Rocky song, that the single is a nearly flawless track, and then on the album for some
it
reason
bad
Moby's
because
on
of
it and it
Moby?
ruins. His
Damn.
part is what ruins it. I don't think he does a bad job, but it ruins the song and it's weird. I don't know.
Jason is curious about his and asks what his funeral is like. And I love the way Janet says,
Your friends didn't say things about you so much as they graffitied a Red Lobster about you.
Yeah, in Jacksonville, that's the first stage of grief.
I love the specificity of a Red Lobster. That
What's your
really
stance
brings the
on
whole thing
graffiti,
together.
Zach?
No stance. I mean, I don't have anything against it. I'm pro graffiti. I mean, sometimes tags can be kind of an eyesore when it's just
Sure.
like the spray painted letters, but I love when I see cool artwork in graffiti, and I don't have anything against people tagging stuff. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, I think that you vandals all need to be locked up under the jail. Shane.
Okay.
Yeah, Shane.
It's a hard stance I wasn't expecting you to take.
Yeah, no free expression of art.
Eleanor mentions in Arizona, when you die, you can either have a regular funeral or have your body set out at a shooting range for a $200 state tax credit.
I think
That's a funny
hilarious.
line, too. Tahani comes up with the idea. It's a very party planning Tahani move. They have to kill some time, and they're going to spend it giving each of them the funeral to end all funerals, which is where we get the title of the episode, of course. And Jason's last line here, he says, "You know what they say in Florida, if you don't like this funeral, just wait a minute." The way that sentence ends, almost as if you expect there to be more to it that comes after it, I think makes it really funny.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Shawn and Bad Janet enter the judges' chambers, and it's been a second since we've seen Shawn, so it is kind of nice to have this little face-to-face moment between Michael and Shawn.
Oh, yeah, because the last we saw of him was when they went to the bad place to get Janet.
Yeah, that's true. And that's been at least 4 episodes or so. It feels like a while. Shawn doesn't say anything that prompts it, and Michael goes with the bounces off of me and sticks to you, which I thought was funny. The runner of that throughout the episode, especially the time later on when the judge says, "I don't think any of you are using that
you
right."
you aren't using that right. That's kind of funny.
But the moment doesn't land, so Michael says, "Wait, say something really mean to me that just guts me, really devastating. You're gonna totally be glue." And then I do like that Shawn does say something devastating, but the setup makes you forget that Michael set it up for a second, because Shawn keeps talking. He says that the experiment's coming to an end. His attempt to prove humans are more than just mobile turd factories, which is really funny, is coming down. And he ends it by saying, "You're going to fail again because that is what you do. You're a choker, Michael, and you're about to choke for the last time, except for the eternity you're going to spend in the bad place being choked by me, who will be doing the choking." And Michael says, "Well, you're glue." Just as that ends, the Good Place nerds arrive and marvel immediately, "Wow, what a nice room. Look at the floor." Do you feel that way about nice people sometimes?
I am a nice person, so I feel like people might feel that way about me.
Yeah, but you're not edgeless. You've certainly been like world hardened and you're nice and friendly to people, but there's no... you don't portray yourself as someone who never gets down, who never has a bad, upsetting moment. You know what I mean? You have your low energy moments too. I'm sure people see that. I think you're
Not
a
at work, though.
well-rounded
At work,
human
I'm
being.
only the up bubbly Steven, so it might come across as that way to some people.
How come I never get that Steven anymore?
You get the real me, baby. I can't keep it going all the time. What do you want? We used to go to movies.
Michael thanks the Good Place people for coming, and they thank him for doing the best job that anyone's ever done at any task, even though they have no idea what he's done or how he did.
But
They
know
tell
he
Shawn
did a great
also
job.
that he doesn't have to worry. They're going to give up their leverage and compromise so they can meet Shawn halfway. Shawn says, I met your mom halfway last night. And the Good Place people just laugh and call it adorable. Then we get the first funeral. It's Tahani's funeral, which is in the cabin of a...
Aeroplane of a...
Do you know what G650 means? What does that mean?
Well, a G6 is like a really nice...
Like a G6?
It's yeah, flag, like it's short for G650.
I always thought that was a car.
No, sir. Fly like a G6. Fly, because the private jet. G5, it just has to do with how big the plane is.
Sure. Maybe that's how many engines it has, the 6? No? Just the one? Just got the one?
Because I doubt that they'd have a 5-engine plane. That seems...
Too many? Too many engines?
No. Just an odd number of engines doesn't seem conducive to flying very well.
What do you know? Okay, so you've been in an airplane, so you know everything about engines.
I've never
all of
been in a
sudden.
private jet, though. I can say that. They look fun. Bad for the environment. They look fun. I would fly private if I got the opportunity.
Bad for the environment, fun. How does that level out? About even, right?
Yeah.
Jason's the first person to say a few words for Tahani.
Tahani was super nice, and she deserved for people to be nicer to her than they were. The only sad thing is that she never got over her speech impediment.
That's really funny.
I like all the cuts to the people pretending to be dead, like, because they're not really pretending to
Yeah.
be dead, so when someone says something they don't like, they react to it. It was these moments of the close-ups that I really thought Kristen's directing shines,
Yeah.
because it's a really nice visual. Both when you just see the close-up of their face, you can't tell their surroundings very well. They just give hints of their surroundings. Like, especially the Tahani one, when you just see the close-up of her face.
It almost looks
a
like
casket.
she's in a casket, yeah.
It does, yeah. Eleanor says some nice things about Tahani. I think my favorite parts about the funerals really are Eleanor and Tahani speaking to and about each other. Eleanor says that Tahani improved so much over her many lives, which has been really fun to track over this podcast, and that Tahani helped her improve by teaching her things like why you can't buy a bra from Home Depot, and they don't sell bras at Home Depot, and what was I wearing? Turns out it was a men's back support harness, and it worked.
That
in
was
a
really
pinch.
funny.
It is
I thought
very
that
funny.
runner was funny.
She says that Tahani was the best friend she ever had and that she loved her, which is really nice, and prompts Tahani to sit up to thank them. And Jason wishes that Chidi were able to be there, to be active in these. It feels weird that Chidi's not a part of these like kind of final moments that they're having. And Jason says it sucks that he's too dead for these heaven funerals. Cut immediately to them all trying to pick up Chidi to Weekend at Bernie's him. I always love a good Chidi being surprisingly jacked reference with Jason saying, "How do you get so jacked?" Do you remember Eleanor's response? It's really
I think
funny.
she says someone told him when he was at 14 that push-ups alleviate anxiety, so he started doing them and never really stopped.
That tracks to me.
Yeah.
Back in the courtroom or in the chambers, everyone rises as the judge enters. Maya Rudolph's back to give her ruling. And she does a little bit put the stakes out there. She says, this is the single most important case that has ever appeared in my court, and the results will have ramifications for all eternity. And then the joke is, but first, you guys all need to sign my petition so they make a reboot of Ally McBeal. Did you ever watch Ally McBeal? That was kind
My
of before
mom
our
had
time.
shown me some Ally
Yeah.
McBeal like clips and stuff. It's pretty funny. My mom liked it a lot.
That's the one that Portia de Rossi was on, right?
I think so. There's like something with like a baby that she sees
About a lawyer?
sometimes. Yeah.
Because there's an episode of Futurama where the aliens are like just getting TV from the 90s and they're getting this show called Single Female Lawyer, which was supposed to be Ally
That's so
McBeal.
funny.
And it's like the show never got to the finale where they're from, so they make like Fry and the gang create a finale
Act
for
it out.
Single Female
Nice.
Lawyer. It's a good one. The judge starts like giving some riffs, some ideas for the Ally McBeal reboot. Maybe get a young hottie in there like a Zendaya type. But Zendaya is way too famous to do an Ally McBeal reboot now. But back in 2019, she wasn't quite the movie star that she is now.
I think
She was
the-
very,
the-
very famous, but she wasn't
But
like
not-
too
yeah.
famous to be on a TV show yet.
I think it's Zendaya's
Zendaya looked great at the Oscars, by the way.
super rocket ship up, I think, was the Spider-Man movies and how good she was in them, combined with
Yeah, this might have been after the first Spider-Man movie.
yeah.
That might have been
like
before
Dune
2019.
is a big blockbuster. She was in that movie that was the Netflix movie, and Euphoria was huge.
Euphoria was a huge part of it,
because
yeah.
Euphoria took her like, oh no, she can really act. Euphoria is worth watching. I think I like it. I didn't like the second season, I don't think quite as much, but I think the second season is better, if that makes sense.
Sure.
There are parts of it, I don't know, it's kind of hard.
It's just
Euphoria's
hard
a weird
to watch.
show to explain.
It's not fun to watch, but it's good.
Sometimes it's not fun to watch. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's very fun to watch.
Interesting.
And they do a good job at making you really dislike certain characters and really feel bad for some characters, and then also be like, oh, this person like needs...
Is a bad person, needs help.
It's very interesting.
I'm gonna watch
Zendaya's really, really good in it. Sydney Sweeney was really good in season 2. Maud Apatow was really good in season
Is that
2.
Judd Apatow's daughter.
One of his 2 acting daughters. Because Iris
something
was on
that was
Love.
cool at the Oscars, Zendaya came out and gave out an award. She was one of the presenters, and it was a cool, like, look how far this young, huge, amazing star has come.
We just need to get Zendaya nominated for an Oscar. That's what we need. Make that Zendaya Oscar movie.
I don't think it's been earned yet, but I think it will 100% happen. It's only a matter of what movie puts her in.
Like
This movie that's coming out this year with her, the director of Call Me by Your Name and the zombie.
I think
one
she
with
might
Timothée
get nominated
Chalamet.
for this one, but it doesn't seem like the one that she might win for. Although maybe it's going to actually be good.
The
you can't
tennis
get
threesome
far enough
movie,
in the
Challengers.
trailer, because if I see someone other than me in my dreams giving Zendaya a kiss on the cheek, I turn
Just
it
get
off.
angry.
Yeah, every time I see Tom Holland, I punch a wall.
The judge asked the right way to
backflipping
pronounce
bastard.
Zendaya, and the only one who knows for sure is Shawn, which I thought was a funny touch.
Is it Zendaya or Zendaya?
Zendaya? Or, I don't know.
I don't think it's because he's attracted to her. Although I guess that would... Even if she was under 18, Shawn is like the spokesperson of the bad place. So the judge asks, yeah, come on, guys, you'd all watch that, right? And even like the Good Place people are silent, but they smile. You know, nobody really is that into the idea. So she takes the petition back, bangs her gavel, and tells the accountant, Matt, to take it away. And this is really Matt's big moment to give away his results. And he prepares to reveal for everybody, this is what's happening for all humanity in 30, 29. The judge takes that moment away from him, but he's still very showy because he shows off this like slot machine looking device.
I think that's really funny.
The Who Got Better slot machine.
Yeah.
He says, I thought this would be fun. I had a lot of time in there. And through this device, we learn how each of the members of the 4 humans picked for the experiment improved over the year. We talked about the numbers. They range from Simone, like a 12%, to... was it John, who was like 44%? That's a huge increase and really cool to see. And Michael, after each one, goes, bam, look at that, bam, look at that. And then, like, the literal Price is Right, ba-ba-ba-ba, bwang, sad sound plays when it shows Brent, and he's -1% worse. And Michael says, I shouldn't have stuck with the bam thing. I think that's really fitting. That Brent, even after what happened last week, because he was so much worse than -1%, that's where he lands in the explanation for that. And when they bring up his upswing at the end a little bit later, I think that works pretty well. It's time for Jason's funeral, and before he gets down in casket position, he does a cannonball into the pool as a lifeless Cheaty in a Hawaiian shirt is floating around in the pool.
I missed one of my questions for you in trivia.
Let's hear it. That's why you thought I had more than 8?
Yeah. What is on Jason's shirt at Eleanor's funeral?
Don't know.
Parrots in fedoras.
Nice.
Bunch of,
That's cute.
Yeah.
I also noticed and thought it was cute. You kind of mentioned this. You caught it too. Tahani and Eleanor are sitting in these lounge chairs. They're drinking drinks, and they have a box of hot wings from Stupid Nick's Wing Dump next to them.
I love it.
Tahani asks Jason, like, I know this could go poorly, but why is this where you chose to have your funeral? And the little line from an episode or two ago where we learned that Jason was born in a swimming pool comes full circle, because we learn in Jacksonville there's a tradition of having a funeral where you were born. And he says, I got born in the deep end of a pool right after my mom did a cannonball. And this show does such a good job of choosing when to show you what they describe and when to give you the mental picture of a 9-month pregnant woman pulling a cannonball in a pool in Florida.
Jesus.
Tawny says, yep, I knew the risk when I asked you. I regret asking you. Yeah, immediately, baby comes right out. Eleanor brings up Jason's mom, and this is kind of a nice moment. Speaking of your mom, you never really mention her. Tell me about your mom. And Jason first, like, seriously is able to say, yeah, you know, she died when I was pretty young. Died of the big C. The crocodile that lived by my house. Just kidding. It was cancer. That's
Which
the
is
big
funny
joke in
because
that
Jason
line.
knows that like some of the shit he says is absolutely ridiculous. He's like,
He's
nah,
more
it was
self-aware than
cancer.
he gets the credit. And right after he says, she died of cancer, watch me do a handstand, and jumps back into the water. It's really, really funny. And then we cut to Jason being laid up like he's in a casket, but you can see the edge of the pool by his head. A really cool shot. And they all start to say nice things about him. I do like the warm feelings of talking about how much these people... We've been so focused on the experiment that we forget how far this main crew has come to just really caring about each other.
Yeah.
Anytime they say anything negative about each other, it's with a smile, and one that makes the other people smile too. Like when they call each other out, it makes them happy. I really like that.
I think Janet wearing the Jaguars hat is adorable.
So sweet. I agree. I think this is Tahani says that Jason once told her the closest he ever got to having a piñata at his birthday was when a seagull ate too many condoms on the beach and exploded. How many condoms do you think is so many that a bird explodes?
It's got to be a lot.
A lot of condoms.
Yeah. I mean, good for Florida, though. People are having safe sex. That's a good thing.
I really love everything about Janet's moment to Jason, from wearing the Jaguar hat to everything that she says, explaining that Jason was the first person to ask her about her feelings, to the point that she didn't even think about the possibility of having feelings before someone like Jason asked her. And I really love the line, I could see something special inside him that no one else could see. It was a multicolored blob of positivity right behind his sternum. That's my Jason, a big colorful rainbow blob stuffed inside a hot life-sized action figure.
I think that's so sweet. I think that
Very,
is
very
such a
sweet.
beautiful thing.
Very, very true to the character, and Janet getting to show her love for Jason for the first time in a couple episodes was really, really sweet, really nice. And Eleanor is also nice to say, because she can say, Jason, you're a dirtbag, because she's a dirtbag, and Jason takes this as a badge of honor when she says it was nice to have a true dirtbag buddy to talk about what really mattered in life. I love their... You know, Jason Statham and dead Jason Statham forever. And Eleanor says, indeed, Statham forever. Amen.
I get it.
From there, we go back to the chambers where Michael is delivering his rebuttal now that he knows that they didn't all out win. There's more arguing to be had. And he starts by arguing that 3/4 of the humans improved after being removed from the difficulty of decision-making on Earth, mentioning that in specific categories, Chidi got as much as 38% more confident. Simone, this is a big one, getting 43% more flexible in her judgments of other people. And John didn't call anyone the C word except for himself and a pack of squirrels and a chair he tripped over.
Which I think are all valid.
Do you use that word very often?
No.
Do you feel comfortable using that word?
I have used it to describe another human being
Like you
2
do.
times, and I meant it both times.
And I never forgot it either.
Yeah. I thought that, you know,
Do you say it to their face?
No.
Oh, so you're a pussy.
Oh, wait. Maybe one. No. Maybe one.
Okay.
But they were very mean to a friend of mine, and I didn't like that.
I don't... Oh, then that's a good reason to call someone that to their face.
The other person
However-
was just a cunt. I don't know how else to say.
I'm not offended by the word. It's not a word that like makes my ears prick up when I hear it, but it's never felt right coming out of my mouth, so I've
You're
just
not
always
Australian.
chosen not to say it. I think it's more the British that say it.
The Australians say it a lot.
Yeah, well, who of us is
Maybe not the
employed
2
by
Australians that
Australians?
you hear talk. I will
like
say
3.
that in drag culture, specifically in the thing of RuPaul's Drag Race,
Like serving cunt. It's a good thing.
Yeah, or like if what a cunty walk, you know.
It's like giving
the whole
bitchy
thing,
energy in a positive
what
way.
it takes to win RuPaul's Drag Race, they say
I just said it.
charisma,
Oh my God.
uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
That makes me think of rewatching Barbie when it's like the pink acronym, and it's I've N, never sad, K, okay.
Okay.
Good movie. Shawn doesn't know why they're discussing any of this because Brent got worse, and it proves that humans, if they can't be better when all of their needs are magically met, they're probably just not that good and can't get better. And the judge agrees with this, says that Shawn is right, and that this info, just those 3 people getting better, isn't enough to turn the whole afterlife upside down. But Michael gets to have some Atticus Finch moments in this episode, saying that, remember that our other 4 humans, or 3 if you're not including Chidi, they got so much better over the original experiment. That's 6. That's the number of friends in Friends. Love the way Ted goes through the thought process of, you're telling me the friends should go to hell? Well, okay, Ross and Rachel definitely, and Monica, and Joey, and definitely Chandler.
Definitely Chandler.
Phoebe?
Chandler from that time that he took
Perry,
Joey's
rest in
girlfriend. Yeah, R.I.P.
Oh, yeah.
Matt Perry.
Although I feel like I was rooting for him in that moment.
Yes, but he went about it the wrong way.
That's very true. But then he sat in a box
Great
all
plot line.
Thanksgiving.
He did. He made up for it.
That's probably my favorite Friends Thanksgiving episode. They do good
That's
Thanksgiving
mine too.
episodes.
Friends cast coming soon.
Oh, so you won't do... So you do Friends... You like Friends that much, do you?
I like Friends. I think I like Friends enough to see the flaws with Friends.
Me too. And I've grown up, so I don't love it that much anymore, but I still appreciate it.
But like
for
I've
sure.
watched through Friends like 8 times.
Multiple
at
times.
least. Yeah.
Shawn steps up to Michael and says to face it. He lost. The experiment is the next line in his long line of failures. Bam, you're glue, Shawn says to Michael. And then Michael says, actually, Shawn, that's a very interesting point. And Shawn says, exactly. What? And Michael decides to pull up the active files of 4 people who are still alive. Camilla, Donna, Patricia, her stepdaughter, and Pillboy. Shawn kind of rightfully says, well, if you get to pull up all of these good people, I should get to pull up whatever bad people I want. I think the drop of PewDiePie's name, although maybe 10, 15 years from now, there will be people watching this that don't know who PewDiePie is. I'm sure plenty of people watch it now and don't know who PewDiePie is. But it's a funny
he's still
young person
relevant.
to call out. Well, I mean, he was the most subscribed to person on YouTube for the longest time. I don't know if he still is. I don't know what
Beast might have caught him.
That's fair.
But PewDiePie's still pretty big. He still does stuff. Not
He's
as
still
frequently, but he's
hiring
still around.
people to say the N-word for him. Isn't that what he did?
I think that is what he did.
Yeah.
It was something with the N-word, but I didn't think it was him himself saying it.
I think he was like hiring Cameo or Fiverr type shit, and he was having them say cringe lord stuff. I think.
Yikes.
I don't know.
Anything for that sweet YouTube used to be the Wild West, man. I don't know.
Remember was it one of the Paul brothers that did a video with a dead body?
Dead body, yeah, it was. And not even that.
What
to
about
keep them
Jake
canceled.
Paul v. Mike Tyson coming up?
I think it's hilarious. I love Mike Tyson, and I hate the Paul brothers, but I do respect their kind of like in the same vein of the Kardashians.
Jake understands that everybody wants to see him beat the shit out of.
And here's the thing, though.
And he'll make his
best
bag
case
doing
scenario,
it. And he's gotten good.
He knocks out Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Who's
Worst
a
case
60-year-old
scenario,
man.
he gets
beat by
beat
Mike
up by
Tyson.
one of the greatest of all time.
So like,
I found it
it's a
funny that
win-win.
all of
He's
the
gonna make a lot of
photos
money.
the promotional photos they've used of Mike Tyson are definitely from like 20 years ago
yeah,
or 10 years ago.
because he's
at least.
old as shit now.
For a wrestler or for a boxer, yeah, he's
Yeah.
beat the fuck up.
Yeah. The Pauls, though, they do have that Prime energy drink that's one of the fastest growing
that them?
businesses of all
Really?
time. Yeah. The net worth growth of it is kind of like astronomical. But it's because, I don't know, kids buy whatever whoever they watch on YouTube sells.
Tells them to buy. Absolutely, they
Yeah.
do. Michael explains to Shawn and the judge that the 4 people he's picking aren't random. They're humans that were helped by the team of cockroaches intervening without using any magic or anything weird, just when they were alive and doing things on Earth. Michael says that he bets their emotional support made these 4 people better, and if he's wrong, he'll be the first person to say that they're glue. The judge says, I don't think any of you are using that right. The judge pulls up the 4 humans Michael mentioned, and all of them have a very clear uptick in their points after the intervening from Team Cockroach.
I like the look of the graph that they did, 'cause it's not just like a normal one. It's like very intricate and like way too complex for a normal human to understand.
Complex.
I like that graphic. Well done.
Pillboy, we learn, he started actually caring for the elderly instead of just giving drugs to the elderly after they're intervening. Camilla started a scholarship in Tahani's name and sent over 200 women to college, which is awesome. Donna started doing homework with her stepdaughter, which is a smaller win, but a big win for the type of mom Donna used to be. And Patricia taught Donna multiplication. I think this is a really great truth.
People improve when they get external love and support. How can we hold it against them when they don't?
If someone just gave old Donnie Trump a hug, I bet he'd be doing a lot better.
Yeah, he was at the UFC event that I was watching because it was in Florida and he always goes to those, and it's really icky. You know how like sometimes when you're watching an episode of a TV show and there's like a guest star that's too famous and it takes you out of it?
Kevin Spacey's in this one? Oh, sure. Yeah. I thought you were going with someone who grosses you out.
I mean, same vibe.
Like both, yeah.
Yeah. And so watching him like ringside behind all the fights, especially sitting next to his daughter and touching her inappropriately,
like,
really
why is
just icked
Adam
me out.
Sandler in this episode of Jesse?
Like, well, obviously, Jimmy Smits is the killer this week. He's the only famous person in this episode of CSI Bus. Yeah.
Shawn reminds, though, the glaring thing is that Brent got worse with every second. But the judge is the one that points out until right at the end. In the last 10 seconds alone, he swung way up. And Michael continues his great lines here by saying, that's the whole point. No one is beyond rehabilitation. Brent spent a year being an absolute diaper load of a human. And the points total tells you that. But what that number can't tell you is who he could have become tomorrow.
I liked that. That could be a little cheesy, but I liked that quite a bit.
The judge says, okay, I've heard all this. I'm going to have my ruling shortly. And we leave that for a second when Jason asks Janet where she wants her funeral. Dave and Buster's? Probably Dave and Buster's.
Dave and Buster's.
I think she said Dave and Buster's. So let's go
there. Ahead and
You can have my funeral at a Dave and Buster's if you want.
The one time I've been to Dave and Buster's was with you. And I had a very fun time.
I haven't been in a long time, but it's fun.
I went with you and one other person. The other person like almost killed the vibe, but it was fine.
Dave and Buster's? Dave and Buster's.
Dave and Buster's.
I like Dave and Buster's. Janet says that that's really nice and that would be cool, but they've given her enough already, and she gets her moment to tell all of them what they've done for her, although I would have liked a moment of everyone telling Janet what she's done for them.
Tahani taught me that you can make a family, even if you never really had one. Jason taught me that I have value beyond what I do for other people. And Eleanor, there was a moment on Earth when all hope was lost, and I watched you have hope anyway. Just thinking about that makes me want to barf up a beautiful quasar.
One taught me love. One taught me quasar. One taught me pain.
And after that, it makes it Eleanor's turn to have a funeral, and she lets them know that they don't even have to move. Then we cut to her in a real casket, but still poolside at the same pool, now with the "Ya Dead" banner in the background. Tahani says, I'm here in sweatpants for the first time ever to celebrate Eleanor Shellstrop in a place where she spent most of her life, in a bar, in a house she was not invited to. This is the moment of all of these that made me a little bit emotional because it showed me in a different way than her being a leader, just the type of rock Eleanor has grown to become over these seasons without, as we've said since the beginning, ever losing what makes her her, what makes her an Arizona trash bag. So for Tahani to be able to say so kindly and thoughtfully in a way that makes Eleanor laugh that she never knew if Eleanor was going to jab at her or objectify her in a way that was making her feel good, but was also kind of problematic, which Eleanor like reacts to and kind of shakes her head. Nah, come on. What do you mean? But she always felt so seen by Eleanor. And I don't think Eleanor, season 1, episode 1, was the type of person that could see people.
No.
And now she's the main one that can of this crew, other than maybe Jason. I think it's a really, really lovely sentiment. And it did make me feel nice and warm and fuzzy inside. Jason knows that Eleanor doesn't like when people get emotional about her, so he channeled all of his love into a song, and he starts just vocalizing dubstep noises, and then he takes a break in the middle of his blah blah to be like, this is when the foam cannons go psh, and then he goes back to the blah blah blah, and Eleanor cuts him off and thanks him. That's okay, Jason. Thank you very much. Okay, who's left? And we all know who's left. Mm-hmm. It's Chidi. And even though Chidi doesn't get to have an active part in this episode and doesn't really even get to have an active funeral in this episode because Eleanor can't bring herself to say anything real, I love that they have him set up in his study with all of his books stacked around him like a throne. And Tahani asks Eleanor to say a few words to Chidi. Do you remember what Eleanor's Yosemite Sam words to Chidi are?
I don't remember exactly what it is, but it was funny.
Chidi was
He's
a
the
rootin'
tootin',
tootin', rackin' frackin' varmint. So I don't know why I went all Yosemite Sim there. This is when also Eleanor's wearing the Dead AF shirt, which I thought was really cute. She went the silly route, which I think we can all do when we're asked to say something a little too heartfelt, no matter how much you grow. She can't do this. She can't just sum everything she feels for Chidi up in a few cute words to send him off into that great afterlife night. You know, she can't just say a sentence that makes everybody feel warm and fuzzy like she could about her other friends. The feelings she has for Chidi are so much deeper and more complicated than that. And it is sweet, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. It's fitting. I don't want this to be when Eleanor conveys her feelings for Chidi because
there's so much to be said, and Chidi needs to be there for it.
Yes.
Just as she says she can't do it, the portal opens up, and Janet lets them know that this means it's time for them to hear the judge's ruling. And Eleanor suggests maybe they change first because Tahani's sweatpants say Skank Army on the back of them. And what do I have to do to get a picture of that little Stephen Baker booty and some Skank Armies?
Send me the pants. I'll put them on. That has always been the term.
Only if afterwards you send those pants right back to me.
I will. I'll vacuum seal all of that.
That was me sniffing Steven's worn once sweatpants. For those not watching the audio. Wait, not watching the video.
You can watch the audio if you want. Just look at the screen real hard. Can we put one of those like Spotify 6-second videos that plays during the song?
Or the old school Windows media player bursts of color to go with the sound. That's what you need. It's time for the judge to give the ruling of all rulings. We've gone to the funeral of all funerals, and now it's the ruling of all rulings. She addresses Michael and his case, and I really, really actually from this point of the episode to the end, I think accomplishes what it sets out to accomplish just about perfectly. Yeah. Because this moment of victory for Michael feels so built up to, and you know that the other shoe is going to fall, whether you know what happens or not. But that doesn't make this moment of victory any less captivating. The judge addresses Michael, the case that she's brought to her, that the point system is flawed, and after seeing everything that she's brought to him, she's decided that he's right. And I think a big part of what sells this is Ted Danson as Michael giving these genuine we're right. He knew
he's shocked
what was right, but he did not know that the people who make these decisions would side with him. And he does have a happy, shocked moment. It's really lovely. The judge says that through this, she's learned that humans are not fixed at one level of morality. They can always get better, which means the point system does not accurately judge how good or bad they are. You won. That's even more so I like Michael here. He gives a a tearful almost nod and just a really, really good Ted Danson acting moment. And Michael, then he turns around to his friends and says, now that wasn't so hard, was it? I kind of feel like because this episode, I'm sure, got chiseled down to fit the runtime, it feels like it's missing the gang coming through the portal into the courtroom.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It almost makes it feel like the maybe we should change first line was tacked on, so then when they're all in different costumes back at the judges, that it makes sense. Mm-hmm. Shawn slumps down. He's defeated. That's nice to see. He feels really like he lost, even though that won't last long either. Mm-hmm. The judge tells Michael the universe owes him a big thank you, and now we begin the process of what comes next.
Obviously, Earth is canceled.
Earth is what now?
All humans on Earth and in the afterlife will be extinguished, and we will start the entire human race over from scratch. And you know what's so funny? In a very roundabout way, I am actually rebooting Ally McBeal, because I'm rebooting everything.
So funny.
Michael won, but at what cost? And Eleanor with that face that Kristen Bell can pull so well, turns around with the, come on, like,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? There's a commercial, clearly, because there's a pause, and we come back with Jason walking up to the judge saying, okay, how about a recap in case somebody was thinking about skateboards and didn't hear any of that? Eleanor pushes him away and says that canceling Earth seems drastic, but I think there's good arguments for why the judge decided this is what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Earth is too far gone. They can't just tweak the point system, even though that's what they're about to pitch, to make it retroactively fit what's going on. If everything's so broken. We got to start from scratch, back to amoebas. The judge says maybe this time humans will be even better and not have baby teeth.
I like that little riff. That's fun.
They fall out and then the bigger teeth just grow out of that same hole. Gross.
Agreed.
It is kind of gross. Mm-hmm. The important thing the judge says is, I tried to blow a raspberry, but just air came out. Thumbs down, raspberry blown. You got a raspberry in the chamber? Thank you.
You're welcome. Try again.
It wasn't good,
Interesting.
But it came out.
Yeah, I got sound that time. That was good. I liked it.
Interesting was what I got afterwards. Interesting.
Sorry, that was my guttural response.
Interesting.
Interesting.
The judge notices that the humans and Michael are surprised and asks what they thought would happen. Michael thought they could change the point value, make an apple 3 points instead of 2 points. And Tahani agrees. She compares it to like Spanx for your soul.
I like that. Give it a little boost, some extra credit.
But the judge says that the problem isn't the points. The problem is that Earth has become too complicated for the points to reflect the value of human behavior. The whole thing Michael discovered. She feels like she has no choice. That's what she needs to do. And she begins searching her purse for the human wiper outer thingy. And I love how lackadaisically the judge is able to talk about all of these things.
Yeah.
Because her position is so otherworldly that, we'll just wipe the whole thing out and start over. No big deal. But of course, that is a massive deal. It's a huge deal. Shawn tells Michael, wow, you won, and you somehow still failed. Classic. And then gives a really good Shawn evil laugh. Good moment. Yeah. I like the little Shawn we get in this episode.
I do
think
too.
Mark Evan Jackson is just so funny. Fits the character so perfectly. Eleanor tells Michael, for the first time since early in the episode, now for a different reason, that they need to wake Chidi up because they need his help. And Michael's not sure. He says just to tell him that he and everyone else in the universe is going to cease to exist. Eleanor gasps and says, yeah, when you put it that way, that's not really sounding that good. But she comes up with an idea, and she needs to go plead to the Good Place nerds. Tells them, if you guys were ever going to do anything, this is the moment. You got to do it now. And in classic Good Place nerd fashion, they agree, but then can't agree on if the letters they'll write, if they should be stern or not. And the guy who says he would write a stern letter decides to resign once he's given some pushback. And they
brave.
thank him. And clearly, they'll never be any help, the Good Place people.
No.
So Eleanor and Michael re-enter the office as the judge begins to bid them goodbye, tells Janet and Michael she'll see them again in a million years or so, and prepares to press the button. She begins singing a song. Was that like a reference to something, or was that just a cute Maya Rudolph thing when she's like, I'm gonna
she sings
miss
an
you guys.
actual song.
See you at the crossroads. I don't know what that is.
You're white once again, Zach, has come
Not
in.
once again. I still was the whole time.
That you have no knowledge of the hit song Crossroads. And I'm going to miss everybody from Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Everybody. Yeah, Crossroads from the Britney Spears movie,
Meet you
right?
at the Crossroads.
Isn't the Britney Spears movie called Crossroads?
There is a Britney Spears movie called Crossroads.
That's what it's from.
That's it. Bone Thugs and Harmony featured in the Britney Spears original picture Crossroads.
I thought it was a nice touch and callback. There are quite a few in this episode. That the judge still has a bottle of Cholula on her desk throughout all of this. I thought that was a nice touch. Before she can press the button, though, after she's sang her little song, Janet boops away. And Janet reveals, facetiously, no, you can't do this. I'm hiding it in my void. And she turns around and says, I don't say no a lot. Did I pronounce that correctly? The judge says, I'm just going to go find it in your void. And Janet says, I'd like to see you try. And she does. She does try. The judge pops into Janet's void. And I think it's a really funny Darcy moment of Janet like twitching around while the judge is moving around and saying, oh, she's in my void. It feels weird. Yikes. She uses the word yikes. Whoa. And then the judge pops out, not having found it. She's really frustrated. She looked through Janet. It's not there. Janet's surprised by this. What do you mean it's not in my void? And then a really good reveal happens.
Yeah.
Don't you think the bad Janet
Great reveal
is pretty satisfying?
Yeah, I do.
I remember the episode that Michael and bad Janet talking being the overarching thing. We weren't like crazy about that.
No.
But I do think her leaving with the book and then dropping it for 2, 3, 4 episodes for this moment works really well.
Great setup.
And to show that, like, learning what is the right thing and what needs to happen in this situation has nothing to do with bad Janet liking people or feeling any different. It's just because she's read the data and she's a Janet and she is on their side now.
Which I love.
I missed a really funny line when she's talking about reading Michael's manifesto
On the toilet.
on the toilet. She says, I don't have to poop. I choose to. And then she says, the whole system is totally effed. Humans suck, but this isn't their fault, which really amazes Michael. He's really proud and excited that she read what he wrote, and she says, don't get too excited. He also used the pages to wipe my butt, so don't pop a stiffy just yet.
I love it.
A really good moment between the two Janets. She's so thankful to bad Janet. Bad Janet acts like she doesn't care, but our Janet is seeming to think that maybe she actually does a bit and goes in for a sister hug. It's a really nice moment between the two Janets.
I love it.
The judge is really frustrated, of course. This is a pretty dirty trick on Janet. The ruling was been made. They're like tampering with the ruling, and the judge does not want to see it undone by two Janets playing keep away. But then we get another great reveal. It's not just the two Janets. It's all of the Janets. They've all come together because of a text chain that they've all started sharing information.
Avengers, assemble! Bam, 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 bam.
They all come together, and through the portal, dozens of Janet variants enter through the portals. I think the show is so good at these moments when there's dozens of Darcys on screen. They all have a different style to them, and they're all separate people. It's not just like a copy and paste crowd. I think they do this really well. And as you see the judge like walking up and down the lines and like it's just shot flawlessly well. You can't tell where the Janets end and where like the CGI manipulation to make it look like a bunch of Janets.
Well, and I think they have
really
just
great.
the right amount where there's a lot of them, but not such an overwhelming number
That there's
visually
too many
that it
to
looks
make
fake.
look good. Right. All the Janets have read the manifesto. They've created their group text. One of the Janets pops out to say, I mostly send gifts of otters. Do you think it's gay men or the animal? I think it's the animal, but I'd prefer the other one.
I don't
Steven
hate
sends
otter.
me gifts of the other otters all the time.
I do. Almost exclusively.
We're almost to the end of the episode. The judge is very annoyed with this, of course, and I think Maya Rudolph is really good in what she gets in this episode, and her being annoyed here and starting to sort through all the Janets is a really nice touch for her character, a really funny bit. She has to do this the hard way. She's going to search the Janet voids one by one and rule out which ones don't have the thingy that'll end the universe. She calls it her stupid Earth rebooter thingy, and she's going to marbleize them. So each of these Janets are giving up their life to hold or pretend to hold this thing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really solve their problem. It just gives them a little bit of time. It might take a while. There's a lot of Janets, but they don't have a lot of time to think. They've got to get this going quickly. Janet says they need a plan. They don't have forever.
Exactly.
And Michael scrambles in classic Michael form.
What's the plan? Plan. Step 1, get a plan. Step 2, do the plan. Yeah, this is working.
Michael, focus.
Right, sorry. All right, so if we can't change the points, then maybe we can change what we do with the points. Yeah, we just need a brand new system for judging humans in the afterlife. We can do this, right?
Yeah, but in order to crack it, I think you know what needs to happen. There is literally only one person here who is smart enough and thoughtful enough to save humanity.
There is someone else we need.
I was going to try to say Anna Gagne in the Hamilton, but I'm not going to. I hope
Gagne.
everybody got that bit because it's a good one. There's one person here who is smart enough and thoughtful enough to save humanity, and it's Michael and Eleanor on each side of the shot with Chidi lifeless behind them, and then Jason steps into the frame to say, I'll do it,
great.
guys. No, they push him away. Eleanor, because in the beginning of the episode, it's because she loves Chidi. And of course it still is. She definitely still hammers in that he should get his memories back because she wants that Chidi back. But what she says here is so true, that designing a new afterlife is the ultimate ethical decision, and Chidi is the guy who spent his entire existence pondering the biggest questions. I love Kristen's delivery in this episode that she directed, still having this great acting moment too, saying that he is brilliant and empathetic. All he cares about is how to best treat other people, and he is willing to sacrifice his own happiness to do it. If they're going to do this, they need Chidi back, and he needs his memories. Michael, of course, isn't sure about this just because he knows the other side of Chidi, that Chidi is the most indecisive man that's ever been born. And you want to take him and stuff him full of over 800 different versions of himself and then tell him he has like 45 minutes to save humanity? It's daunting, and Eleanor doesn't know if that's going to go well, but she knows that it's not going to go well if they don't have someone with a mind like Chidi's on their side. It's now or literally never. Wake him up. Just as they say that, another great Good Place moment where it feels like the time is ticking out, and what's so great about this scene is it starts to feel really sinister what the judge is doing. As you see her pop out of that first Janet, wasn't in there, marbleizes her. And Eleanor looks at Michael, they both look at Chidi, they know what needs to happen, and the last shot, as all of this craziness is going around, the last shot is the lifeless Chidi just waiting to be woken up, and I think it's really effective. And I think I get what you're saying about maybe making a couple episodes into one, but I like that this gives us another week of Chidi's back, and it's going to be such a moment when he wakes up, and I can't wait, again, just like last week's cliffhanger, I can't wait for the next episode to jog my brain of what happens after this.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I think this is one of the strongest stretches of the show in terms of what the story that they're telling here and how they bring things together. And I don't remember every little detail. This episode's a huge testament to that because I didn't remember a lot of the funeral stuff. But
which was fun.
I
this
really
is the first
enjoyed this episode.
In this entire podcast that's truly kind of felt like I was watching an episode for the first time again until the end.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. I love so much that this episode does, and I love this just overarching story so much. So I'm excited.
This is a pretty good one. Like I said in the beginning, it's not one of the all-timer, like, ultimate climaxes. We've still got a couple episodes left. That's coming. But I think the ending of this episode is really, really satisfying in giving the ruling, letting us have a really, really series-long earned moment of catharsis as we realize that Michael's won, that he got through to the judge, just to learn that it's never really solved. There's always more work to be done. And I'm excited. Just like you said, I'm excited to dive back into these last 6 episodes or 5 episodes that we have left. It's
home
gonna be
stretch.
Crazy. Well, friend, we've done it. That's our conversation on another great episode of a final season that's just getting more and more climactic as each week goes by. We did our discussion. We've had our discussion on the funeral to end all funerals, and all that's left to do is give out our good place and bad place points this week.
Heyo.
Let's start with the bad place.
Did you have a good time, hard time? I'll go first.
Yeah.
So my good place was easier this week than my bad place because I don't think anybody is unexpectedly or inherently bad. But when breaking it down to who earned or lost the most points towards being the good place this week, I had to go with the judge, not just because I think that her decision-making makes sense and all of that, but what I would have liked to see out of the judge to maybe earn some good place points was considering other options than immediately rebooting the Earth. I understand that to her, the scope of the Earth and all of humanity is very small, but you're affecting a lot of people on both sides if you do that. And I think that it's worth examining another option before you go right to, I'm going to just erase all of humanity, including the people who are standing here right in front of me.
That's a good argument. I think I have an answer. I think I'm going to go a different direction. I want to give it to the Good Place nerds because that's
twice you've given it to them. I think both times they've been
They should
featured.
be... I get, like, there's rules and they can only do so much, but they should be more passionate. They should, I mean, it just makes me think of all of the quote unquote good place people
Passion
in our
is a
world.
sin, Zach. Don't be passionate.
All the people in our world that love to have the image of good guy, but are way too timid to actually use their voice and platform to make accurate and lasting change in the world. And I think the Good Place nerds are a great television recreation of an idea like that. So I'll give it to them this week. I agree with you that it's not a hugely bad behavior episode. None of the humans deserve bad place for this episode. So I'll give it to the Good Place nerds. And I think the judge is a good choice too.
Yeah.
As far as Good Place, I think I'll give the Good Place to Janet. I think Janet has a really good episode, and it helps that she does something great in both storylines. The friend that she is in the funeral storyline, and then the big gamble, risk, sacrifice she makes for the better of the world and the team, even if it means she might be marbleized for real this time. I think it's a really great Janet episode, in an episode where a lot of people deserve some Good Place points. I'm willing to give mine to Janet. What about you?
I wholeheartedly agree. Janet all the way. I think her being the catalyst of the funerals happening and setting them all up, and then the network of Janets treating that as one Janet, I think she saves the day once again. The
singularity of Janets in this episode is a really cool idea that feels like something the show has always been building to. And I like that a lot. We undersold that moment a little bit. This idea that all of the Janets become one network, one unit, that's huge. Yeah. And that's really neat. And I think that does add to why it should be Janet in the Good Place this week.
Great Janet show, but great Janet episode.
Yeah. Great Darcy episode. Pretty good episode of the show. It's starting to have hints of the sentimentality of a series nearing its end. And right now I'm excited because I want to see where the plot goes. But I just know that this ending, as the culmination in this podcast that we've been doing, is going to hit me like a ton of bricks. But we're not quite there yet. There's still a little bit of fun to had. There's still a little bit of fun to be had, including that next week, we're taking 1 week off from discussing the final season of The Good Place to give you the third of 4 options that you'll be voting between later this year to determine what our next podcast, our weekly rewatch podcast after The Good Place, should be. So far, we've thrown out I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson. We've thrown out Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Next week, we're talking about something completely different that I'm really excited to be talking about. And then the fourth one is still kind of tentative. There's 3 options for the fourth option, and it's an exciting time to talk about these things and be making these decisions. I hope you join us next week on all 3 of our podcast feeds to talk about option number 3. I think you'll be excited about it. It's one of Steven's picks. Are you excited?
I'm very excited.
Me too.
Very, very excited. I think
untapped potential for me.
I think I know what direction I want to suggest for what we do.
Okay.
So I've got some fun. I think it's going to be fun.
I'm excited. Well, outside of that, if you like what we're doing here, if you're excited and you want to hear our podcast a week early before they come out, if you want to get that third option sooner, if you want to just support us so we can keep taking this show onwards and upwards as we transition out of Into the Time Knife and into whatever our next podcast will be, patreon.com/can'tdisappointpodcast is the best place to do that, alongside getting 4 years of an extended catalog of Patreon exclusive content that you can only get right there. Steven, if the people don't have money in their wallet to support us, we do appreciate any support we can get from anyone. Yeah. All of the interaction really makes our day. Whenever someone comments on the YouTube or shoots us a tweet or sends a cock pic in the DM requests. Where can people find us to do these things if they so choose?
Well, if you want to see up close and personal how secretly jacked Zach is from doing push-ups constantly from the age of 13. Go follow us over on Twitter and Instagram over at Time Knife Pod. And if you want to get the live stream of Zach pushing up right now, doing push-ups right this second, if you want to see us wrapping a pancake around a breakfast sausage, find out if that's a euphemism or not. Go follow us over on YouTube, hit the bell to get notified, search the name of the show, Into the Time Knife. You'll find all sorts of fun stuff over on the YouTube for sure.
Steven, it's been another great week of spending some time with you, cracking wise, riffing bits, and talking about one of the most unique sitcoms of all time. What a cool thing that we get to do this every week and take every frame of The Good Place and give it its worth, I hope.
It's an honor and a privilege, sir.
All right, well, I don't want to hear any more of that, so get us on out of here.
From inside the Time Knife, Black Lives Matter.
I'm Zach.
I'm Steven.
Ceasefire now. I don't know the catchiest slogan, but obviously everybody should be talking about a ceasefire until
ceasefire, free Palestine.
It's ridiculous. It hasn't happened. I hope when this podcast comes out, something has happened, but if not, we'll be here to rally it, cry out the rallying call until Palestine is free and no children are being murdered there just for existing there, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We love you very much, and we'll be back next week with an exciting, extra special episode, letting you know what our next podcast might be.
Special episode.
Have a good week. We love you.
Love you guys. Bye-bye.
You don't worry about tomorrow anymore, 'cause you're dead. Or does anything still echo? Is there any trace left? Well, I know she still remembers. She sleeps with your picture by her bed. They shaved your face and they washed your hair.